Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you've been following me, you know that we've been working on a very cool poison build trap since the server slam. We were able to place 4 traps at the same time before, blowing up. And now today I'm about to show you how to do that, but this time we're going to be placing 8 traps. It's absolutely broken. So let me give a demonstration. Yeah, the other traps were placed there because I was practicing my intro, but anyway, you get the idea. This build is broken, especially against bosses. So, without further ado, let me give you a demonstration. Awesome, right? I freaking love it. I'm having a lot of fun with it. So anyway, I know what you're here, so let's get into it. The abilities are the same as the poison build as I explained before, with a little bit of a change. Now we have as our basic attack puncture, because we would like to use that vulnerability passive that fundamental puncture gives us. Our core ability is still twisting blades, even after the nerf. Is still super powerful, very strong, nothing changes. Or we're gonna be taking the sturdy and the symphonic strikes passive to stay, again, it's very important for survivability. And on the ability skills, we're not taking anything but only passives. Now these, to tell you the truth, is the only downside of this build. We do not have mobility, so if you are trapped, there's a very high chance that you will die. So you gotta make sure to play it safe and always be careful on how many enemies you take at the same time. With that being said, we're gonna be taking concussive, which is the passive that allows us to knock down enemies and get an increased critical strike chance. We're also going to be getting weapon mastery just to get that extra bonus damage against enemies depending the weapons that we are using. In this case, we're using 2 daggers, therefore we're getting 15% increased damage against healthy enemies. Moving on our subterfuge skills, we're going to have concealment, but this time we will not put a point on the skill that breaks concealment, always makes enemies vulnerable, and I will tell you why. And that comes from the Paragon. We no longer need this point because a glyph in the Paragon board allows us to automatically make our enemies vulnerable, which is awesome because that gives us the fortune to be able to use 1 more point into somewhere else. With that being said, we are taking enhanced stealth that gives us 40% extra energy just in case. We're going to be taking 5 points into poison trap because it's some sort of our main damage, and we go for enhanced poison traps to knock down those enemies, and countering poison traps to get that 30% chance to reset our imbuement. We'll also be taking exploit that deals 12% increased damage to healthy and injured enemies, and we are also going to be taking malice that gives us 9% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. Moving on to our imbuement skills, we're going to be taking 5 points on poison imbuement, and we're gonna go for enhanced poison imbuement and blended poison imbuement that a critical strikes with poison imbuement skills deal 75% increased poison damage. We'll also be taking the precision imbuement passive and the deadly venom with the debilitating toxins passive as well, especially the debilitating toxins because that reduces 15% damage taken from people who have been poisoned, which is fantastic. Moving on our ultimate abilities, this is where everything changes from the previous build that we did before. We're going to be taking Shadow Clone with Prime Shadow Clone and Supreme Shadow Clone. Why? Because Prime Shadow Clone makes us unstoppable for 5 seconds, which is super good. And Supreme Shadow Clone gives our Shadow Clone to deal 20% more of our damage, which does fantastic synergy with one of our aspects that we have on our items. We are also going to be taking Trap Mastery because when Poison Traps activates, you gain a 12% increased critical strike chance against vulnerable and crowd control enemies for 4 seconds, which is perfect with our Poison Trap build. Now, as our key passive, we will naturally be taking Exposure because we get that reduced active cooldown of our skills by 20%. So it's a must. Moving on to our Paragon, on the first page, we're going to be taking a route through the right so we can get that 10% extra damage. We're gonna go for the glyph, and in the glyph we're gonna take Efficacy. If you think there is a better glyph to take, please leave it in the comment section below. I would love to hear your thoughts. We're taking Efficacy because these skills effects have 20% increased potency. That means that imbuement skills effects have 20% increased potency. It's as simple as that. It's very straightforward and it's very strong. So our poison imbuement will do even more damage. Moving on to the second page, we are going to be taking Deadly Ambush as the legendary because it deals 23 increased critical strike damage to enemies affected by your trap skills. I think you start seeing here the synergy. We're also going to be taking that rare node called Trapper that gives 30% trap skill damage. So you can see how this is just blowing up out of proportion. And on the next glyph, we're going to be taking Exploit. Why? Because when an enemy is damaged by you, they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. This is huge. This is what is allowing us to remove 1 point for concealment, and now we can make vulnerable everybody who steps on that poison of ours. That is awesome. Moving on, let's go into our items. And let's start from the head. In the head, we're going to be taking that classic barrier. So every time we damage an elite enemy, we get a barrier absorbing up to 1300 damage for 10 seconds, which is, again, is our safety net. Moving down to our chest, our basic skills grant 20% damage reduction for 6 seconds. Again, more survivability because we cannot get out of combat. We don't have mobility, so we want to make sure we are slightly tanky. On our arms, we're going to be taking our imbuement skill effects have 30% increased potency against vulnerable enemies. You can see the synergy here with the Paragon and everything else we have shown so far. So this is just making our build super mega strong. I just noticed that I don't have anything on no gems on my pants. I should put some gems. I just recently got this item actually because I honestly don't have a lot of ideas of what to put on my pants and on my boots. So if you have any ideas or suggestions, please feel free to throw them in the comment section below. So this is what I have. I got lucky and I got the secret unique pants Temerity, which effects that heal you beyond 100% life grant you a barrier up to 76% of your maximum life health, and that lasts for 8 seconds. This means that if I use a healing potion, you can see that I get a barrier and it lasts for 8 seconds, which is very useful, and I get for survivability, which is very freaking good, and I like it. That's why I put it. Now on my boots, critical strikes grant 15% movement speed, just so we can move a little bit faster in case that we're in the mess of everything, so we can get out of it one way or another. So, and on our two-handed weapon, which is our bow, we have your shadow clones also mimic the imbuement applied to your skills. Casting an imbuement skill grants your active shadow clone 24% increased damage for 5 seconds. This is huge, meaning that when we use our ultimate and we have our shadow clone, it will not only do that 20% extra damage that we put on our on the passive, sorry, on the extra point that we put on Supreme Shadow Clone, but it will also do 24% increased damage for the next 5 seconds. So that is fantastic. More synergy there with our ultimate, more damage, more epicness. Moving on to our amulet, we're gonna be having that very important the aspect that does everything for this build, which by the way, I finally know what's its name, and I just freaking forgot it. It was something about infiltrator or something like that. I'm so sorry. I am terrible remembering that spec's names, so I just rather read the descriptions. Moving on, we have that aspect on the amulet, which is the one that allows us not to break stealth when putting traps, and that's why we have the 8 traps poison build right now. Going over to our rings, we have the Twisting Blades orbit right there, which is called the Blade Dancer. I remember the name of that one. The aspect is called Blade Dancer, and you can get it from a dungeon. This is not a legendary drop, which a lot of people have been asking me. Yes, this is a legendary drop. The Poison Trap aspect is a legendary drop, therefore that means you cannot get it from a dungeon. You need to get it from a monster drop or something like that. To me, the Butcher was the one who dropped it, so I got lucky there. Anyway, to my other ring is a very interesting aspect that I thought that it's gonna do a lot of synergy with everything else we talked about, because it gives me critical strike chance. So making an enemy vulnerable, which we automatically do thanks to our Paragon, has up to 50% chance to grant 3 increased critical strike chance for 3 seconds, up to 9%. Now if I were to look at my stats and I scroll down, I have a 20% critical strike chance. So with that, I will have about 30% because I have 20.8, and this is giving me a 9%. So yeah, 29.8% critical strike chance against my enemies, which is honestly very, very, very good. Now moving on to my 2 daggers. On my left hand, you have 16% increased critical strike chance against injured enemies while you are healthy. You gain 32% increased crowd control duration. This is just to keep that poison going and having more damage against my poisoned enemies. And on my right weapon, we have critical strikes with poison imbued skills have up to 10% chance to increase a toxic pool that deals 2,824 poison damage over 3 seconds to enemies within while standing in the pool. So basically just throwing more poison all over. Now this one has only a 10% chance for it to happen, but nevertheless that little extra damage is always welcome. And that's it. I hope you like it, and I've been working with many other ideas. Please let me know what you think about the build. It's freaking epic, let me tell you that, especially against bosses. It's super cool to watch the boss just completely disappear. I have another build that I posted yesterday, which is a critical strike build, which is fantastic for clearing dungeons, right? But it's not as good as this one to killing bosses, and I love that. Now let me tell you, honestly speaking, do I think this build is competitive or like meta or something like that? No, I don't think so. I think this is a fun build, very enjoyable build, but you like many things. You like mobility, you like speed, you like many things that the rogue does very well. So sometimes it's gonna take longer to clear dungeons because you're moving slower. The enemies die slower because you need to wait for the poison tick to go all the way down for you to finally kill them. Those are little downsides that I noticed with poison, but putting that aside, it's a fantastic build. It's a lot of fun, and I absolutely love it and fell in love with it. If you would like to see more builds or you have more ideas that you would like to share, please leave a like, subscribe, and I'm all ears for suggestions. I am currently working for a rapid fire build, which I'm very excited to show, maybe during this week. In the meantime, I'm trying to reach a level 100, which is going to take forever, but I don't know how people do it. I play this game for like 8-10 hours, and I can't no more. I'm exhausted, but anyway, I'm going to try my best to keep up. Torres signing out. I'll see you in the next one, and yeah, don't forget to subscribe.